The following is an overview for Infor Visuals Shop Floor, version 908, Service Pack 1. Shop Floor version 908 Service Pack 1 has multiple enhancements. Let's review these enhancements by each major section. In scheduling, we'll begin with 2 preference changes, then view the daily completed and deviated quantities enhancement, followed by display enhancements and additional columns. In the labor section, we'll take a look at the new labor work order view, labor efficiencies, and employee status. And finally, down in the work order materials section, we'll look at scanning entry improvements, an enhancement for labeling, and finally the ability to add a new work order requirement when issuing materials. We'll begin by looking at preference updates for the scheduling views. Drilling into preferences from the main menu, you'll notice our first update will be done to sort work order by, we can do it by work order now, customer order, or even customer. I've selected customer order, and let's go back to review the scheduling view. I'm inside of resource schedules, and you notice that if I go to the right hand side, I now have customer ID, customer name, and customer order, and the sort is by customer order. Now let's go and take a look at the second preference update, and you'll see that the schedule view by is now enhanced. I have the options of looking at shop view still, operation type, or resource group. As an example, I'll just select the resource group and one of my group resources. I'll submit, and you'll notice that up in the header it does tell me that I'm now looking at the resource group and group G1, and you can see my example. For the next enhancement, we'll look at daily completed and daily deviated quantities. Going into the scheduling, and I'll select one of my resources, one of my operations, and here you'll notice that up in the header we display completed quantity as well as deviated quantity for the current day for that operation. Next, we can cover multiple display enhancements as well as additional columns. For this example, I've set my view to be by operation type, and you can see I have operation 3. I'm going to drill down to the detail window, and inside of here I'm going to look at operation list. The operation list will display some of the new columns, starting with the operation type, and if I scroll over to the right hand side, you can see additional columns including the addition of the user-defined operation as well as the user-defined resource columns. Next, I'll navigate to the material list. This is the work order materials view. It has been enhanced to look more like the operations material view. You can see that we've added quite a few columns to the work order materials view. Both views include a few more enhancements, starting with the part picture. You'll notice here if I want to, I can drill down further for a larger picture of a specific part. Scrolling to the right, I can now display the reference designators. Here's a couple examples of the reference designators added to 2 parts of my work order. Also, specifications access has been added now to the material windows, and you can see that I can get at requirements, operation, and the work orders. Navigating back, I'm going to go back into my operation. Drilling down, I'm going to open up one of my operations with labor against it. Opening the operation labor view, we can now see the additional columns that have been added, primarily date, resource, resource ID, and resource description. The operation labor view also includes the efficiency and estimate columns that we will be discussing in the labor section. I will navigate to the labor section to show you that the My Labor view also displays several new columns. Next, we can review the labor enhancements, beginning with the new labor by work order view. From the labor view, I'm going to go over and choose labor by work order. The labor by work order view is going to be similar to the work order operation view found inside of the scheduling window. Additionally, in this window, you can either manually enter or browse to select your work order elements. Here's an example of the browse. I'm going to select my first work order, and below you can see the results of that browse selection. Other features that exist in the work order operation view will also appear here at the Labor by Work Order view. Next, we will cover labor efficiencies. Going into the Preference Maintenance underneath the Labor tab, on the bottom left-hand side, you have an opportunity to set up a couple of thresholds. One for initial warning, and the second for error threshold. In the Labor menu and navigating over to My Labor, I can now show you an example. I've chosen a date range for this one employee, and you can see that the efficiency rating is 81.3% for the orders that I am demonstrating. And that calculation is estimated hours divided by hours worked, extended times 100. Scrolling to the right, we can now look at efficiency for individual rows. And you'll notice that I have estimated hours, actual hours worked, to come up with the calculations for efficiency. And you'll notice that two of the rows have flags against them based upon the thresholds that we had set up in preferences. There is also a filter to show below efficiency thresholds only. The third labor enhancement will be for employee status. To see the status flags, we are going to go into Employees Clocked In. Here you'll notice that I've already got 3 employees. The first one showing the red icon, which indicates that the employee is scheduled to work, but he's not logged in. The green icon is representing employee is working on a direct job, and the blue icon is identifying an employee that is logged into an indirect labor ticket. You'll see the following flag when an employee is clocked into VTA but is not clocked into a direct or indirect labor ticket. Pressing the Show More filter, you'll notice that I can now come in and show clocked in only, and you can see it reduces it by 1 row. Or I can also come down and choose Show Scheduled Only, and you can see it also only showing you who's scheduled to work. The Work Order Material section has several enhancements. We'll begin by looking at scanning and label printing options. Let's begin with the scanning entry items. In Preference Maintenance, I'm going to go over to the Material tab and display some of the new setup options. First, down below, you'll notice that there are all of the transaction types that could possibly be done for material entries. I have a choice of either clearing the form or going back to the main menu. Additionally, for issuing or issue returning, you have the option now to scan in a description or enter a description during the process. For an example of these scanning options, let's move over to the Work Order Material section. In here, I'm going to go over and put on the scan mode, and you'll notice now in the header there is a new field that comes up. This is the active field, and I've gone through and I've scanned in a transaction type, and this is my issue transaction that I'll demonstrate. I've also come in and now I will scan in my base ID header information, and then I'll move down and scan in the material card at this point. Scanning the material brings me over to the warehouse. I can enter a warehouse or continue with the current primary warehouse. The same with the location. Moving into the next phase, I can come in and put in a quantity. Once I accept the quantity, the process moves to allow me to enter a reason code. And the next step in the process now would be a description based upon our new enhancement. I'll issue that material, and because of our new setting, I won't go back to the main menu. I'm sent back here to enter in my next issue to work order transaction. Next, let's look at the enhancement for label printing. Going into the new Print Labels option, here you can see that I can either choose the label or label group, depending upon my setup for label printing in Visual. Label types include labor trace, traceable, or as you can see now I'm going to choose part, and I've filled in my information by selecting the part that I want to have the labels printed for. Put in my print quantity, press print, and here's an example of my output for the lot. The ability to issue materials has been enhanced with the Add New Work Order requirement. In Visual Inventory Transaction Entry, there's functionality that you can go in and enter in piece requirements that don't exist on the current work order, but you can add them on the fly and it'll come across as a new material requirement. This functionality has been added to shop floor for issue work order transactions. As an example, I'm going in and entering a new requirement. A new button will come on once I accept the issue material. Select my part ID, enter a quantity, and I will submit this update, and it'll issue the material for that new requirement. Note that this feature does have component level security. If we're going into program security and then shop floor, component level security, on the bottom you can see allow new material requirement. Thank you for watching this video on Infor Visuals Shop Floor version 9.08 Service Pack 1.